It's like being fast but going the wrong direction. The last 1% typically is what is going to prevent you to succeed.
David's a published cryptography researcher and Forbes Technology Council contributor who spent years building AI systems for regulated industries. Stay with this one. By the end, you know exactly the AI mistake that's quietly costing founders trust and deals and how to avoid it. Are you seeing founders lose deals because of how they're using AI right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there is at least two ways of using AI today, in my view. One is what I call intentional, and the other one is after the fact. So it's when you just slap AI somehow in a solution. So the way to think about this, how can I be intentional, is if removing AI completely transforms what the solution is. So let me say you have a customer service type of application, and then you put a chat box in there. The chat box is generic, it's not really helpful, people are not really clicking on it, they think that talking to a human is always better. That kind of AI is not really making a difference for that company. I've seen people being more successful by combining automation with increasing productivity and AI serving as a mechanism of performance. AI is an element of the cake. You cannot remove that ingredient after the fact, but if AI is the icing on the cake, then you can always remove that. Different levels of involvement. Customers notice when AI is not a key ingredient of the solution. So if it is just for the looks or something people know.
So there's a difference between AI that enhances productivity and AI that is just there in order to be a bit of an icing on the cake.
Yes, we are living in a time, and there's a little bit of AI fatigue right now, but we are living in a time where saying that you have an power solution is good. So this is going to attract investors and potentially partners and everything. But how AI is used changes the perspective of the value that you are. So one of the most powerful uses of AI, especially if you have a model dedicated to that end, is so you have already a set of rules of how you execute your business. And then you use AI to understand those rules, those patterns, and then customize messaging and materials and visuals. This is an intentional use of AI. AI is actually helping. And the productivity you're going to see by doing these things, as opposed to human being doing manually, is substantial. You can tell the difference. So it's very important for you as a business owner to have metrics. How can you tell if AI is actually making any difference in a business? So you need to have metrics with or without AI, but especially with AI to know if there was any change in customer perception. Are they happier? Are they noticing those add-ons? Is there any change in performance, like end to end of your operation? Did anything change? Right? And once you put those metrics together and you have them very easily in a dashboard, you can tell if AI is actually promoting a change. I am of the opinion that AI is transformative as a technology. It is a transformative technology, but you need to know how to use it, right? So if you underuse it or use it for the wrong purposes, it's not really going to help you.
Definitely. Having metrics is very important. For me, I like to track the amount of time I would take to do something without AI and then track the amount of time I do it with AI. So it helps me see the picture.
And metrics can sometimes be challenging too. One thing is to have a quantitative metric, how many customers we close deals with, or how many services we provided this year or this month. But there is a qualitative metric, which is, are they satisfied? How do you collect that? So you need to think about how you're going to do this survey with your clients, encourage them to be vocal and to give their perspective. Once you have that idea, it's much better to assess, like, quantitatively and qualitatively, what is the perception about AI? I'm going to give you an example where using AI is currently not seen as good. It's like when people want to have that human touch, that they are being seen and heard, and then they call your company and they talk to a robot. Like that's today, no matter how you advertise that, this is being seen as annoying. I don't like that. And like people drop the conversation immediately. When they are in a chat box and they ask the same question like 4 or 5 times, doesn't understand what you're asking. Again, frustration, annoyance, and right away they go like, okay, talk. Some marketing agencies decided to use AI for creative, and people started to see vanilla flavor materials and didn't like that. The pushback was that marketing agencies started to say, hey, we are human-based marketing agency. Started to add back the human factor because people started to say, I'm going to sound like everyone. I'm going to look like everyone. I don't want that. I want differentiation. AI, you really need to sit with a team and think, number one, why do we need AI, right? So if you don't have a good answer for that, it is a bad sign. Number two, how we are going to implement AI. And you don't need to struggle alone. I think it's smart to talk to other companies that already implemented AI and their stories and see the good, the bad, the ugly, and try to apply to your own solution. Talk to AI experts and people that are working in this field. It's always helpful. You don't need to travel this journey alone. It can be a hard one. But if you find the sweet spot where AI makes sense, customization, automation, all of those things that would replace manual work, whenever you see repetition, that's a good place for AI. Whenever you see creativity, calm down, slow down a little bit because AI can help but cannot be a full-blown substitution for that.
Definitely. I think repetition, automate, and creativity bring back the human.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you use AI intentionally and you have the metrics and you start talking to your clients, how do you feel about this? I'm going to give an example. In my field, I work with compliance, right?
Yeah.
So there are lots of documents to prepare. Depending on the framework that you're working, we might be talking about hundreds of thousands of. Imagine a client having to go through thousands of documents and filling all of them. We help them by creating these documents, creating all the templates, and exposing them the placeholders. All they need to do is fill the blanks. It's much faster, and they can review and say if they accept, and if they need to change anything, they can add it. We calculated the amount of time of doing this with the assistance of AI and the amount of time of doing this manually, and the time savings and cost savings is beyond belief. So who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to complete a task with the same level of quality, less time, and spending less money? So this is a compelling argument, right? But at the same time, if my model is generic, it was not prepared for compliance, it's going to provide inaccurate answers and it's going to get them up to speed, but in the wrong way. It's like being fast, but going the wrong direction. It's not good. If the case was that, then what I would be doing to my clients would be a disservice. As soon as I talk to them and ask how you feel about this, they could tell me, it's not working, David. I get all these templates very quickly, but when I look at them, there's so many errors, so many things that have nothing to do with my company. I feel that you are inducing problems to us, giving us more problems. Now we are fixing all of those things. So yeah, the way you use AI, you must be very critical, very judicious about yourself and assess the work and talk to your clients. Feedback is key. Feedback, you need to really make sure that you are inspecting yourself, but also asking, how do you feel about this? Did you really like the result? And do you agree that we are helping you in this way? And be ready for whatever feedback they have to provide you. And it's going to be helpful anyways.
Definitely. Be open to feedback and make sure the AI is well customized for your company and for your clients' needs.
Liability is another problem. If you are providing to the model information that is considered confidential or sensitive, this can be a problem. So you need to be careful about security and privacy. I don't recommend using mainstream API-based AI models whenever you have sensitive information. At the very minimum, you should de-identify these documents and texts and whatever information you have. You should use offline models to prevent that information to be used to continuously train the model. We have seen companies using mainstream API-based AI models and information end up on Google search and public domain. This is a horrible display of lack of responsibility, right? A company that is working with you, they need to trust you that you're using AI responsibly. Education plays a big part on this. So it's very important to stay updated about what is happening in the AI world. I don't recommend using generic models for very specific text. If what you're doing is heavily based on legal matters, try to use a model that was trained or fine-tuned for that matter. And same thing goes for healthcare, for technical matters like security and privacy, compliance. So this is our approach for this. And I would recommend the same for anyone that is working with the tests that require high accuracy, but also sensitive information.
Definitely. So you have to be mindful of the kind of information that would be fed into the AI. And the more sensitive, the more you really have to think through which model, and it should be placed offline as well, like you said.
Absolutely. I was talking to another engineer yesterday how the engineering process did not change as much when it comes to liability preparation planning. There is this misconception that AI made everything very quick, but in my view, AI replaced and improved substantially the production of code. Code is being generated really fast. That is true. The engineer still needs to know what to do and how to do and to review the solution that was made. And in the process, going to see mistakes that AI makes and how to correct that. If you just say, fix that for me, you're going to be in for a treat, like over and over again, doing all of that. Human factor, we change a little bit how we do things, but the responsibility is still ours. So I'm saying this because if there is a founder that is thinking, I'm going to go into the AI route and I really want to do this, my recommendation is it's not going to be like just a button that you press and say, okay, so using AI right now. It's going to be as involved as if you were changing the entire software platform of your company. Like, what company should we use now? You would be judicious about that. Or if you decide to change location, so you are in California, but for some reason you want to go to Texas, what is the impact of this change? So the planning part should not be rushed. If you plan to use I would recommend to read success cases and cases of failure as well, to talk to people who walk the path and ask them about good and bad things, like what would they recommend. I would see if AI really fits into your business and what would be the most impactful use case. So spend time in brainstorming. Spend some good time. The more you think about this and the more depth you add to that process, the less surprised in a negative way you will be after the fact, because you actually took some time to understand and to say, I have a clear view right now. So this is what I would recommend.
Definitely. I completely agree with the slowing down part and not just press one button and build the whole company. It's very empowering, but we should slow down. And I feel like founders should be as involved as they can, especially in the beginning, making sure that everything goes in the right direction and gets done in the way they want it to be.
Absolutely. And another story that I just remembered is be aware of the last 1%. AI made creating prototypes very fast, right?
Yeah.
So you go from zero to something, like in the speed of light.
Uh-huh.
There is the last 1% that typically is those bugs that are not being fixed or the instability when you start adding users and for some reason the app is crashing, you don't even know why. And there is a lack of compliance. Someone came and said, I could see your database credentials. So the last 1% is what is going to prevent you to succeed. So you walked very fast from 0 to 99%.
Yeah.
But now you have an app that when you onboard 5 users is unstable, laggy, is not safe. People are saying that they should not see. So that 1% is the part that is going to be the most expensive and is going to slow you down and perhaps even prevent you to succeed. It's very important to think of performance end to end and not just thinking how fast you walked in the very beginning. Because in the end, what is going to count is the total time, right? So if you did 0 to 99% ultra fast, but then you spent forever in the last overall, the process was not good. So take your time. I cannot stress this as much. Take your time in planning, in brainstorming. You are going to be happy about yourself later on, because I'm so glad that I took time to think about all of these matters and I listened to people and I asked questions. I was curious. This all pay off later on.
So tackle the last 1% as the first 1%.
Yeah.
And make sure you think about scalability and security before you build.
Netflix has a show about NASA. how they tackle the tasks, the engineering scientific tasks for building the solutions that ends up in space exploration. There was one comment about the equivalent of a quality assurance professional. So they have a team that their goal is to ask hard questions. And what they say is whenever you are, if your life depends on it, if you're going to be on the space, you want to work with that team. So because they are going to ask all the questions and they find hundreds, if not thousands of problems that engineers could not see. And this is all done a priori. This is all done first. And because they have these people always saying, what if happens this? What if it happens that? What would be the behavior of the system if everything explodes or overheat or is missing heat? And in the beginning, engineers tend to be frustrated with this kind of exchange. Oh my God, it's never going to end. But how necessary this is. I would say this is a nice analogy for because everything is so abundant. Everything, if you want to build a video, you build a video. If you want to do a photo, you build this photo. If you want to write a test, you write a test. If you want to write code, you write code. So everything's so readily available. But you need to ask question like, why am I doing this? And if those things goes into production, how they are going to go to production? What is going to be the impact? Is this good? Is this appropriate? Is this accurate? So taking time to decide which AI tools you're going to use, models, agents, whatever. What kind of provider you're going to use? Are you subject to vendor lock? What if they increase their prices? What if they stop serving that solution that you have? All of these questions you need to put on the table and be judicious. And this is going to help you in the future.
I really like the analogy with the spaceship because if you're building a rocket, you think a lot more than if you're building software because software is so fast. You can build software in 5 minutes these days. Just making sure you ask all the right questions and think of yourself as you're going to be on the rocket. So you have to make sure that everything is just exactly how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
You don't want to throw your reputation on the trash. You don't want to lose your clients and your credibility. And even if you say, okay, I'm done, I'm going to build something else, it's your name that is affected and the decisions you made. So I fully agree with you. Build with AI like you are going to be in the rocket. I love this analogy. So because in the very end, this is what it is. In my company, we use the solutions that we build first. We get annoyed by them first. We go like, oh, this is not good. Only when we are genuinely happy about what we see, we start rolling that out to clients. And as soon as we do that, they find bugs. They find things that they are annoyed. And because people are different. And then we go through this process. So it's a never-ending cycle of improvement. I founded Data Hubs in October. View, perception, and the strategies with AI changed so much since then. And it's not because I was wrong. It's because I'm constantly reviewing. I'm looking at the market, I'm looking at the tools, there are new launches, there are things that impact the way you think, the way you plan. So it is only natural that you adapt. And this state of change needs to be matched with flexibility from the founder, from the company, to understand that things are changing, so I need to pay attention and adapt. This idea of, this is what we planned and we cannot any pivoting, this is wrong. The most successful people, if you look, they were paying attention and making micro pivots all the time because they were reacting to the phenomenon of the market and the industry. So it is only smart to do the same.
Definitely. The business plan you start with will look a lot different years in to the business.
Absolutely. And I'm happy for the changes we made. It means that we are alive and growing. So there's a healthy sign.
So have you seen companies win deals because they handled AI the right way?
Oh, yes. Especially, I'm going to give an example that I participated last year in an accelerator program here in Colorado Springs. And you could see several companies pitching their solutions, and some of them were working with it. It's hard to do this, but whenever you find a niche in the market that is currently underserved or not served at all with AI, I think this is a great statement of creativity and application. I've seen people using AI for IoT, specific for buildings, in such a clever way that I personally never saw anyone doing a solution like that because they were so intentional and so creative about where to plug AI and why. The reaction of the audience was like, I like this. I never saw this. And you can see people saying, I can say how when I go home and leave my office running and my buildings running, I can see how it is beneficial for me to have this constant engine looking at my equipment and looking at my infrastructure as a whole while I'm resting, while I'm having time with my family. And if anything happens, there will be some alarm, some report. I'll understand right away why. Instead of just calling a third-party company that goes there and inspect what the problem is. If you have anything being monitored and analyzed in real time, you can see the benefit, right? So this does not come in a split of a second. This is typically the result of someone that understands really well that industry, that started to see over time a problem that is not being solved. And then they thought, I think AI could do that. So let me try this is not the one truth, okay? Let me try to provide a framework for how to do the same thing that this company did. So the most powerful insight the market gives to us is pain points, right? So whenever they complain about something, that's music to our ears. This is what we want to hear. What are you being bothered by? What is the problem that you can't live with it anymore? We need to look for problems. From the problem, you find the solutions. It can never be the other way around. So you can never have a solution and you go after, okay, so what problem can I solve now? This is a recipe for disaster. So if you hear people complaining, that means there is a problem not being attended. There is a problem not being solved. This is gold. Once you find that, you are in the right direction. Now, take a look at that problem. Not everything needs to be solved by AI. Automation itself is great. So if you can do automation, if you can write a software that does something without AI, good. It's going to solve. If AI can give that power touch that is going to replace and be so much more superior than a human being trying to do that manually, or a process where you have several people doing, which is prone to error, people get tired, people forget. So if you can replace all of that, then I think this is the generic framework. You listen to a complaint, you identify the problem, you got to the solution, you saw that it's not crowded yet, your thought was really original, then just build that. And build for that one company. Don't try to go crazy trying to reach mass market from the get-go. Just go talk to that one company. If that one company says something positive and they praise what you did, they are the best marketing. They are the best piece of ad that you can possibly have. With someone with a good testimonial saying, this solution was like a divisor for us. That was before and after. We are so happy. So work with like few people, makes like a very few people fall in love with your solution. And then you go to the next one and then to the next one. I think not everyone is patient to go this route. But I would say it is the safest one. It would be almost guaranteed that if you go one passionate person at a time, company at a time, that you're going to have this strong use base that is going to speak really well about your product. And then from that, you can expand to mass market. Today, what we are seeing is there is a meme that we're saying we've never seen so many developers today because of AI, right? It's helping. The meme said for the very first time in history, we have more developers than users. So many apps, but the apps have no users. Find people who fall in love with your solution. Build them. Make them love your solution. Then go to the next one. Then go to the next one. The currency today is daily active users, paying customers. If you have those, you are better than some billion-dollar companies out there that got VC investment but have zero users. It's just a fad.
Start with a real problem that you understand in your industry. Start small and do things that don't scale, like YC. Just get started and don't try to be big from the beginning. Just get people to fall in love with your product and get the testimonials and go from there.
I'm so glad that you mentioned YC because I'm 100% sure of something. The most impactful things that you can do is not really original. Some people are saying those things for decades already, but for some reason there is this resistance. People don't actually put in practice. So the difference becomes who actually execute these things or who just believe on them, right? Like Facebook, Meta has things that fail fast, right? So a lot of people believe on that. But how many people actually do that? It's a very small subset. You can see people being to fail in the end. That's not fail fast. That's you just believing in an idea but not executing. I think the difference is, okay, so take those devices to the heart, because some of these is like collective wisdom, right? It's through observation. People started to look at the things that work. Okay, so let's build things that don't scale. Let's make sure that we are starting with the problem. Fall in love with the problem. Be obsessed about the problem. We must go from listening to them and believing those things to execute. And founders, my message from a founder to other founders, I want to tell whoever is listening to this and watching this, you have a superpower. Remember the time that you were an employee and you were working in a company where you didn't have autonomy, you didn't have the freedom to execute. Remember that, how frustrating it was to believe on something but not being able to execute. Now, as a founder, you have 99 problems, you have 1,000 problems, but you have one superpower. You can execute, can do what you believe. This is amazing. Don't throw that in the trash. Be the person that leads by example. Your team is going to look at that and say, okay, our founder, our leader actually believes in what he's saying because this is what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. I remind myself all the time about this privilege that I have, and it is also liability. I understand that there's responsibility, but we learn through the process, even when we make mistakes. So founders out there, execute your privilege, your right, and your superpower, walking the path that you believe in. Because this is, I saw a comedian once saying, it's better to fail doing something that you believed in than fail because you did something that you didn't believe in, somebody else just asked you to do. It's a horrible feeling. So it's much better to be true to yourself.
Definitely. I'm also a huge fan of doing the boring, hard things.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to do really simple things these days.
Yeah.
But if you're following these advice, like fail, and then learn from your failures, all of these things are very hard and very boring. But they're the kind of things that make you grow the most, and they're the things that you can use to grow your company the most.
There is something that I heard from one of my partners. He said, in the end, I want to look back and see that I got great stories. What a great story is to start a new venture and identify a problem and learn a lot about that problem and become the expert in that problem, completely obsessed, and make your life's mission to solve that problem, and then work on a solution, and then see people using that solution, and all of a sudden it's becoming true. Is there anything better than this? You look back like this is a life with a purpose. You feel like you're making a change in the world. I remember when Steve Jobs, back in the day, he would say, while all the companies had those mission statements that were super corporate sounding and super serious, his statement was like, we believe Apple equips people who wants to change the world. This is so powerful. If you really believe on that you are actually changing the world, you're not just making money or selling products, something changes inside you. The way that you drive, your passion is different. And I think it's almost impossible to beat a passionate person, a driven person, someone that is moved by fire. You are not going to be stopped by setbacks and by problems. You're going to be even more motivated. Who can stop someone like that? So if you believe you can solve problems and make the world better, in my case, I am helping people to spend less money, less time, and to understand better compliance. So I think I'm making their lives better. I think I'm releasing them from all of this burden so they can focus on their core business activity. And they have more time for their families. They have more time for themselves. And their company is not wasting money and wasting energy and being stressed and overwhelmed about things that I can solve. So when you look things from this perspective, you go like, okay, so it's much bigger than just selling a product. It's much bigger than just having a company. Is actually providing a better improvement for people's life, people, businesses. And I think this is extremely fulfilling for sure.
Thank you so much, David, for coming on the podcast and for sharing all of your wonderful insights.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much, Panida. Congratulations for what you do. I know that you talk to a lot of people. And I can only imagine how big your brain is right now because you are discussing all of these things and having so many great insights. So thank you so much for including me in the mix.
Thank you. I appreciate it.